Welcome to this live stream from First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Our mission is to love radically, grow ethically and spiritually, and serve justly. We invite you to visit our website at www.ucdsm.org. It's a great way to explore all that our church has to offer, from adult programs, to religious education, to social justice work, and more. But the best way to know us is to visit on a Sunday. We'd love to get to know you over a cup of coffee after the service. Speaking of which, today's service will begin shortly. So now we'll take you inside. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is love's hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for minds in search of truth unfolding, ever beautiful, ever strange. Here, compassion is our shelter, freedom, our protection from the storms of bigotry and hate. In this abode, may we find comfort and courage. Here may our sight become vision to see the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be. Please join with me in the chalice lighting words in your order of service. We light this flame for what is not yet known, for the questions that stretch us, the hopes that whisper, and the courage that flickers on uncertain days. We kindle this flame for beginnings that are only just beginning. And now, let us pass the peace. If you would prefer a little personal space, simply remain seated. Your neighbors will take the cue and leave you in peace. We hope.
When you have finished greeting your neighbors, please remain standing and sing with me our opening hymn number 188, Come, Come, Wherever You Are.
Good morning. I'm Bill Brock, he, him, your celebrant this morning. We welcome all people who welcome all people. We welcome all genders, ethnicities, bodies, and stories. Whatever you are carrying with you, whatever you long to set down or pick up today, may you find here the love, support, and encouragement you seek. A special welcome to those who are new or newish to this community. We have a wonderful coffee hour after the service that we hope you will all join for good food and fellowship. Thank you to the hospitality teams who make these feasts every week. It can be hard to find a way to start a conversation when it seems like everyone already knows one another, which we don't. But one way to jump in is to look for folks with a yellow Let's Talk mug. Big thanks to everyone who supported our public witness at the No Kings Rally and Palm Sunday event last weekend. As Dr. Cornell West put it, justice is what love looks like in public. Today is the day that over 2.5 billion people around the world celebrate Easter. In the Christian Gospels, Jesus of Nazareth, resurrected from the dead after being crucified by the Roman Empire. This is also the Jewish week of Passover, or Pesach. What many Christians call Holy Week always aligns with Passover because Jesus, an observant Jewish man, came to Jerusalem that week for the Passover festival.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the Reverend Steve Seek. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm honored to serve as your minister. As Unitarian Universalists, we embrace pluralism, honoring that there are so many paths to make meaning in our lives. We affirm that everyone is whole and worthy, and we celebrate our diverse cultures, experiences, and theologies. But what holds us together, given our commitments, is our commitments we make to one another. Will you please join me in sharing our congregation's bond of union? We covenant to associate ourselves together for the study and practice of morality and religion, as interpreted by the growing thought and noblest lives of humanity, hoping thereby to prove helpful one to another and to promote truth, righteousness, and love in the world.
So now please sing with me our next hymn, number 1020 in your teal hymnal, Wo Ya Ya.
Will
I want to suggest that today for our story for all ages that our younger ones stay with your adults so that you make sure they're paying attention. Now, as Bill gently alluded, today is a very special day. If you're under 18, can you tell me what day today is? I have a plant in the room. Okay, good. That's over 2.5 billion people today celebrating this is the most important religious day of the year. Now, we are UUs, which means that we have a lot of opinions in this room about what that day might mean. But let's all make sure we at least know what it is about. So a long time ago, like 2,000-ish years ago, on the other side of the world in a land that we now call Israel and Palestine, the people who lived on that land were Jewish, but the people who had power over that land were Romans. Now, the Roman Empire was really big, and they had the best army, and they were very scary. And one of the reasons their empire was so big is because they did not like it when other people challenged their power. Meanwhile, there was a guy named Jesus who lived in the middle of nowhere out in Nazareth. And he and his friends were really poor. But Jesus went around the land talking about how people were misunderstanding their religion. They were following the rules, but they were missing the spirit of compassion and love behind those rules. And Jesus really liked to point that out to the powerful people in the community. And powerful people don't usually like being called out like that. But the people, meanwhile, loved how Jesus saw in every one of them that they had worth and dignity and a kind of holiness. They especially loved how Jesus would heal people if they were sick, or how he would hang out with people that the powerful thought were gross or uncool. And so a lot of the people got excited about what Jesus was saying, and that, of course, bothered the Roman Empire. So now at this point, Jesus has made the powerful people in his community mad and also the Roman Empire mad, and that meant that he was in trouble. So they arrested Jesus, and this is the part that's very sad. They beat him up, and then they killed him. Now, if you've ever seen a cross, that's something Christian people wear to remember how Jesus died and why he died. So all of his friends and all the people that were following him were really sad that day because they had so much hope when Jesus was around and alive, and suddenly he's just gone. When he was alive, it felt like there was so much possibility in the room, like maybe this world could become loving and kind, and we could all just share our money and food and medicine, and everyone could be okay. But now that he was dead, it was like, now what do we do? Well, Christians believe that on this day, Jesus came back from the dead, and not like a zombie, but like God. When something dies and comes back to life, that fancy word is resurrection. And so Easter is the day that Christians around the world celebrate Jesus' resurrection. So I wonder what his friends thought that day that he died. Probably that everything that he did was now pointless, that all the work they did to spread his teaching was gone forever. But I like to think that if his friends could see now how people who try to follow his teachings, and that's not everyone who calls themselves Christian, but for those who follow his teaching, they remember his message, and then they see all of the work that they're doing, I think those friends would probably be pretty amazed. So I want to invite the children to follow Miss Ann out to your faith formation class. And don't forget, there's an Easter egg hunt at 11.
Go in joy, go in peace to meet the day. With open hearts embrace life's wonder. We will guide you, we will love you on your way.
And now I invite you to quiet your thoughts, settle your body into your chair, and join me in contemplation. May we hear the voice within calling us to ask, what's possible? to walk to the edge, to shed the fear and need for control, and dance with the infinite for a while. May we set down the list of wrongs and hurts and see obstacles as invitation for innovation, beckoning our creativity. May we hear each other's voices of love and encouragement. May we hear the cries of the world asking us, who do we choose to be? May we be vessels of comfort and compassion. May we be vessels of hope and healing. May we be vessels of peace and justice. May love prevail.
Good morning, everyone. A bit of a pip, Chinese pip going on, as my dad used to say. Good to see everybody this morning. My name is John Morrow, he, him pronouns, and I'm a pastoral care associate for our congregation. If you're going through a big shift in life, the pastoral care team is here to walk alongside you. Sometimes what we need most is a listening ear. There are many ways for you to reach us: by emailing pastoralcareteam@ucdsm.org, calling or texting our phone number listed on the screen, through the Caring Community page on the church's website, by filling out a card and dropping it in the Cares and Concerns box, or by speaking with me or any member of our team. Here's what's been shared this week. Kerry George is recovering at home after knee replacement surgery on Tuesday, March 31st. His wife, Lynn, says he's walking a bit and that recovery is going well. Let's keep Kerry in our thoughts and send warm wishes as he continues to heal. You're invited to sign a card for him at the pastoral care desk after the service. Susan Jellinger shares that she is home safe after a hospitalization on Monday for a scary bacterial infection in her blood. Susan, we're so glad you are on the mend now. Eileen Bowerman shares that she and Ron are very happily home from Mayo Clinic from excellent, successful surgery. Ron will be recuperating and rebuilding his strength under the nursing care of Eileen. Cards and phone calls only this first week, please. A memorial service to honor member Gene Roms will be held a week from today on Sunday, April 12th, from 1 to 3 p.m. here at First Unitarian Church. Jean died on February 15th. She was a valued leader at First Unitarian, an active and devoted volunteer in our community, and is dearly missed. Finally, a gentle reminder that the Grief Support Circle meets on the second Sunday of each month at 3 p.m. in the minister's office. The next gathering is Sunday, April 12th, and all are welcome. We know there is more happening in your lives than we can name here, more people who might be in your heart. Let's take a moment to speak those names aloud or type them into the chat. As we do, may the care and compassion of this community hold us all. Kyle. We now light 3 candles. One for the joys and sorrows shared aloud. One for those shared in writing. And one for those held silently among us. For all of these, we now observe a minute of silence.
to read a gratitude card, UU recognition. Thank you, Steve Evans, for taking time out of your day to clean the carpet in the We Worship space. Your efforts to providing a clean space for youth are greatly appreciated. We now take up our morning offering as a practice of our generosity, for in giving we receive. In preparing for today's talk, Steve asked me to think about a situation where I embraced possibility, not knowing how things would turn out, but with the knowledge that a good outcome might be possible. I tried, but I couldn't whittle it down to just one. I'll talk about three. This will not go on forever, trust me. The first was my decision in early 1984, at the age of 27, to pursue a long-term interest that I'd put off, probably out of fear of failure. That was to take the law school admission test and then apply to law schools. I'd worked my way through undergrad, in some semesters taking a lighter credit load and working for a grocery store chain. It took me 5 years rather than 4 to finish my undergrad degree. The month I graduated, the grocery store chain closed all of its Wisconsin stores. A month later, I enrolled in a master's degree program in urban affairs at UW-Milwaukee. However, I didn't finish the program due primarily to a paid internship that fizzled out about a year into the program when the employer with whom I'd been interning laid off all paid interns along with a number of regular staff. At that point, I needed the money, so I went to work for a couple of years, this time in a health food store. But I'd thought about law school since I was in high school. So I took the admissions test and was very fortunate to be invited to enroll at the University of Iowa College of Law. Now, most incoming law students at the University of Iowa in 1984 were 22 years old. I was 28 at the time first semester began. Law school turned out to be really hard, but a great experience. And when I was hired in 1987 by the Attorney General of Iowa and given a spot in the Consumer Protection Division doing exactly the sort of work I'd hope I'd be doing, I found that taking that chance that I might fail, but I might succeed, well, it paid off in a wonderful career. Next was a phone call I made in August 1986 at the end of my second year of law school. At the end of my second year of law school, I'd met this lovely woman. She and I had been asked to be witnesses in a mock trial that her law student roommate and another student were trying as a team in mock trial class. We met at the old law school building. I loved her smile from the start. The four of us went out for pizza that night, and I saw her again the next morning in the Johnson County Courthouse in Iowa City as we waited to testify in the mock trial. Her name was and is Karen Massetti Miller. While we sat in the courthouse waiting for the trial to begin, I told her that I was leaving right after the trial for the summer. She leaned over to me and said that she and her roommate would like to have me over for dinner when I returned for the fall semester. Something told me that her roommate might have had little to do with that offer. And I did leave right after the trial. I worked at Legal Aid in Milwaukee in the summer. But I thought about her all summer long. Upon my return to school in August, I decided to take a chance. I called Karen and reminded her of what she'd said to me in May. Now, I didn't invite myself over, no. I asked if she'd like to have dinner and see a movie with me, and if she still wanted, she and Jean could have me over for dinner at their place sometime. Thankfully, she said yes. Asking women out on dates was excruciatingly hard for me. I was a very shy guy back then, and I feared rejection. But she'd given me a clue in May that yes just might be the answer. And we've been together ever since. Taking that chance changed my life so very, very much for the better. The final decision point came 17 years later. Now, Karen and I married in 1988 and had agreed at the time that having a family beyond the two of us was not something we wanted to pursue. I don't know that I can say today that I recall all my reasons for having that view, or hers for that matter, but I do recall that both of us having fairly hefty student loans to repay was a big factor. However, as the years went by, we began thinking more and more about having a child. But that was not happening in the usual way, so we thought about an international adoption. We began planning for that, and we're a good ways down the road to an adoption, though a specific child was not yet identified. When I came home from work one day in the late summer of 2003 and was greeted by Karen holding a test strip and saying, "Guess what?" All I could stammer out of my mouth was the one-word question, "Now?" Yup, now it was. And that little embryo was our Rachel. Hi, Rachel. She was an absolute joy as a child, and now as a young adult is someone Karen and I, of course, still see as our child, but also as a fellow adult with a life of her own and with sage advice for us when we ask. We didn't know what would happen when we finally started down the road to parenthood, both being in our 40s. But it turned out to be the best decision we'd ever made as a couple. I cannot imagine life without Rachel. 3 inflection points, 3 big decisions, 3 chances at falling flat on my face, and the 3 best decisions I ever made.
Thank you. Saturday Night Live, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Second City, Upright Citizens Brigade, Comedy Bang Bang, Make Some Noise. These are just a few of the icons in the art of improvisation that bring me great joy in my life. If you have never had the pleasure of watching improv, I encourage you. Find a live or a filmed improv performance. Now, in theater, there's a script. It's already determined what the words are and the plot are, and everyone on stage and off stage has well rehearsed the blocking, the lighting, the set changes. Everyone knows exactly what they are going to do, or at least should, what everyone else on stage is going to do. And the art in theater is the magic of that live moment, the magic of executing it to perfection. When you go to see a touring Broadway show, it's that way. When you go to see a touring Broadway show at the Performing Arts Center, the folks on stage have done that show hundreds of times. You are basking in the polished shine of their expertise. You don't go to a production of Hamilton and go, oh, I wonder what happens at the end. You know the ending. You go to see how beautifully they tell the story. But in improv, it's anyone's guess. The performers do not know what they are going to say or do until they've said or done it. Now, they have some games, they have some frameworks to get the scene going. So the troupe might say to the audience, okay, we're going to create a sitcom scene based on suggestions from the audience of two famous people who would not normally be in the same room. And once they get a couple suggestions, off they go, leaping into the unknown together. They are co-creating the scene as they go. Is your heart rate already faster? There are thankfully a few rules to guide these improv performers. The most important and the most famous rule in improv is yes and. Yes and. Whatever it is that you offer on stage, I'm going to affirm it. I'm going to go with that, and then I'm going to add something to it, take it in a bold new direction. So if we're on stage together and you begin the scene by saying, "It's so cold," I would kill the scene if I say, "No, it's not. It's hot." Well, there's nowhere to go with that. Thanks, Steve. So instead, I need to give it a direction after that. If they say, "Yeah, it's so cold," I might say, "Yeah, I thought hell would be hot." And now we have a setting that gives my partner something to do with it. So maybe they want to flesh out who we are. "Oh, Prince Andrew, I didn't realize there were royalty here." Or maybe they want to give us a why, like, I thought a whole lifetime in Doctors Without Borders, just that one plastic water bottle I drank, I didn't think that would be it. Whatever it is, away the scene goes. You're listening to your scene partner, you're affirming their choice, and then you're making another choice to move the scene forward. Improv is what I thought of when the Celebrant team and I met to discuss April and the Soul Matters theme, embracing possibility. To embrace, as in to warmly greet and engage with. Possibility, as in the recognition that there is more than one future outcome, that the future is not scripted or fated. To embrace possibility, to warmly engage with the reality that the future is not written, that we are not living in theater, we are living in improv. All 8 billion of us co-creating the scene as it goes. We are going, and heaven knows where we're going. But we know within, and we'll get there. Heaven knows how we'll get there, but we know we will. That is a scary thought, right? Not knowing what's next. It would be comforting to have it scripted. We want to know what's next. We have within us 2 equally important motivations for the future. We have an approach motivation and an avoidance motivation. Approach motivation is our desire to pursue something for the possible rewards. I'm going to work hard at this application for this great job so that I can really move my career. I'm going to hike a little further into the woods into an unknown area because maybe there will be blueberries there. In contrast, avoidance motivation is our desire to stay away from threats. Let me save myself from the hurt that comes from being rejected for this job application. I'm going to stay on the familiar path because that unknown area might have bears. Bill's reflection was a story of avoidance and approach. To call Karen, what if she says no? And instead opted with, what if she says yes? Behold, avoidance motivation keeps us alive. It protects our hearts, it protects our bodies, it conserves our energy. But approach motivation gives life its joy, its memories, its stories. It fills our hearts, it pleases our bodies, it gives us energy and purpose. We don't choose them equally, though, do we? When we are activated by the chaos and the threats of the world around us, by international wars, by legislative assaults in our state or our nation on our basic civil rights, by the unconstitutional occupation of our cities by an undertrained paramilitary, when we are threatened, when we are activated, we lean very hard into avoidance motivation. I just need to survive. We turn like winter, cold and hard. And yet here comes spring every year, warming up, although not last week, warming up, greening up, the sun a little bit longer every day, to remind us to embrace possibility, and Easter, to shake things up, to say you don't know that that untrod path will have a bear, it's just as likely to have blueberries. There's a kind of optimism in this practice of embracing possibility, right? And it made me think of our December theme, choosing hope, because it almost sounds like synonyms, choose hope, embrace possibility. But the danger of hope is that it can be a passive feeling. Boy, I sure hope it warms up. You can't embrace possibilities passively. You have to get on stage. You got to jump into the scene. You got to participate in the unfolding scene. You have to yes and what you've been given. But when we think about choosing hope, at least I remember Joanna Macy's framework for active hope. And it's 3 simple steps. Step 1, acknowledge your present reality. This is what this is. 2, articulate the future you want to see. And then 3, take some steps in that direction. And I think that holds for embracing possibility as well. It's certainly the same step 1. This is my reality. Possibility only begins when you start telling the truth and accepting the reality that you are in. So in improv, there's a whole subset of improvisers that are good at improvising Shakespeare. Can you imagine that? What do you do for a living? I improvise Shakespeare. So let's suppose you're that person and you're really hoping that your scene partner gives you a softball. They say, "Oh, greetings, fair Hamlet. I pray thy journey was not intemperate." And you go, "Oh, I could do this all day." But what if instead she says, "I can't believe you scored us tickets to the World Cup final." And this is the moment when you realize, I'm not a soccer fan. I can't name any soccer players or which countries have a good soccer team. Well, that's the scene you're in, accept your reality. So maybe you're going to pivot with a context. "Oh, are you kidding? What a perfect 50th anniversary." And now you've given her somewhere to go. "Oh, now we're an elder couple that apparently loves global soccer." Accepting your reality. Maybe this was the candidate you hoped would win the last election, but this is the one that did. That's the scene you're in. Now what? If you're in an avoidance frame of mind, well, you pull up the drawbridge, you batten down the hatches, you stockpile, you endure, you survive. And I want to be clear, there are folks with marginalized identities for whom this is the only way through this next chapter. But for people who are not in immediate danger of illegal deportation, there's also an approach frame of mind. A call, if you will, to join more groups in your city, to talk with more neighbors, to read more books, to attend more events, to donate to more programs, to do more getting out the vote, whatever it is, to hike toward the blueberries that you do want to see in the world. To embrace the possibility that this script is not already completed, that we are writing it as we go together. Because if we don't accept the present reality, whatever your present reality is, you get stuck. I'm out of ideas for what to do. And that makes me think of a poem by Wendell Berry. It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And that when we no longer know which way to go, we have come to our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings. When we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. There's not a great deal that historians of the ancient Near East do all agree on. But here's something that they do. About 2,000 years ago, there was, in fact, a man named Jesus of Nazareth who came from Galilee, started a movement, and was executed. Every Easter, I think a lot about his closest friends, what we call the disciples. Because according to the stories, they literally dropped whatever they were doing in that moment, left their homes, their families, their lives, their responsibilities, and just started following this 30-year-old. I think about how persuasive he must have been. Now, according to these stories, they watched Jesus perform miracle after miracle after miracle, literally changing lives. But more importantly, they heard him reframe their covenant with God from a public observance of the law into a private inner work into the spirit of the law, namely that we should, above all things, love one another. So when Jesus says, and according to the Gospel of Matthew 25, whatever you do to the least of these people, you do to me. Another way of framing that from their perspective is to say, well, we know that this guy is holy, and that means everyone is holy. Or as Unitarians might say, everyone has inherent worth and dignity. I think about these disciples. I think about how their lives are transformed by this movement, a movement that starts as a trickle. Some nobody from nowhere and a few illiterate fishermen and a couple despicable tax collectors. And it swells into a torrent of a river that comes flowing into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. This radical idea that we should all help one another and clothe and feed and shelter and heal and care for one another, that's the approach mindset to the nth degree. It leads us to an immeasurably big field of blueberries, enough for everyone. Surely you could see the appeal, given that most people were very poor and living under a militaristic empire that bragged about how they would bomb their enemies back to the Stone Age, how the Persians were no match for this greatest army of lethal war fighters. I'm sorry, I got my stories jumbled for a minute there. Anyway, you can see the appeal of a flowing river of justice and peace and equity and compassion and generosity and love. And then, the story of Jesus' life ends on Mount Golgotha on what we call Good Friday. And the forces of empire and domination execute a person for preaching liberation and love. So I think about his closest friends as I stood there watching him executed in the most deliberately painful way possible. This is not an impeded stream in this moment that sings, the mind that is baffled. No, this is a giant dam that just stops the river. It turns out that path did not have blueberries. It had a grizzly bear. The curtain falls, end scene. And I want to say that I think a lot of us have been in that moment, our own version of Mount Golgotha, watching something that you care deeply about be publicly executed. I know I have. Your head races with thoughts, but you're unable to say a word. You feel your heartbeat in your eardrums more than your chest. You feel like you're on stage, not knowing the next line, because this is not where the script is supposed to go. I know the script. This is wrong. Stuck. The theologian Frederick Buechner writes, resurrection means that the worst thing is never the last thing. Resurrection means that the worst thing is never the last thing. Now, Unitarians and Universalists were historically Protestant Christians. They just were too Protestant for the Christians at some point. And so when they merged in the 1960s, we agreed to be a pluralistic, non-creedal association. That means that there are a range of opinions in this room. I want to be transparent. I don't think much about whether Jesus actually resurrected. But I also want to acknowledge that the accuracy of the claim that on the third day he rose again means a great deal to several billion Christians. And so I want to honor, in my pluralism, my respect for that belief for those. For my part, I tend to side with the biblical scholar John Dominic Crossan, who said, and I don't think this is the nicest way to say it, but I think he said, my point once again is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we're now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we're now dumb enough to take them literally. I think he could have said that better. But I think what he means is that I read them for their truth, not for their veracity. I read the Gospels like I read the Odyssey or 100 Years of Solitude, stories of remarkable wisdom and truth, not nonfiction. And so I come back to Jesus' friends standing there watching their leader die in agony. Surely, they must have thought, this is the end of the road. But Easter is the archetypal story of embracing possibility. Because in his defense, Jesus had very, patiently explained to his disciples over and over, death will not be the end. You will see me in a few days. I am going to resurrect. This is part of the plan. But one of the many things that I love about the Gospels is how relatable the disciples are. They are so slow to understand him over and over. They've literally watched him raise another person from the dead, and still they take his death as the end of their story. And what happens in that moment of imperial violence? They're stuck. They hit avoidance mindset. They hide from the Romans because they do not want to suffer that same painful fate. Even after he visits them again, and I love this, Thomas goes, yeah, I don't really believe it, right? Even after that, finally they get their courage up and they pivot to an approach mindset. And so they go out and share his teachings of radical love and compassion and altruism. And we know that they did because the story lives on, even here 6,400 miles away from where that happened 2,000 years later. Resurrection means the worst thing is never the last thing. The veracity of his resurrection is not the important part of Easter to me. The important part is the radical embrace of possibility. Yes, I died. And here I am. This story's not finished. Over the last 8 months, I have been honored to sit with many of you in my office or in your living room or in your hospital room. I've heard the quiet, internal, deep pains that you carry. I know that many of us are hurting. I know that it feels for some of us like something in your life is dying on a cross. Maybe it's just a broader sense that democracy is taking its last breaths. Yes. And the story continues to be written, improvised by we the people, improvised in stunning networks of resilience and care and resistance in the Twin Cities this winter, because imperial violence looks the same whether it's in a face mask or a centurion helmet. But those teachings of discipleship, as Jesus would put it, would still also look the same. It still looks like tutoring a child or feeding the unhoused or helping the immigrant or cleaning up and stewarding our world or singing in a chorus of thousands who declare that justice is what love looks like in public. The story is not yet finished. We are writing it together. May we write it in love. Amen.
Please rise in body and spirit as you are willing and able to sing with me our closing hymn, number 61. Lo, the earth awakes again. We'll do verses 1 and 3.
From the winter's
Please join me in saying the extinguishing chalice words in your order of service or on the screen. May possibility take root where certainty once stood. May curiosity lead the way. May you loosen your grip, open your hands, and find that something unexpected is already unfolding.
Go forth into the world, embracing the possibilities that may yet unfold in the scene that we're all making up together. Go in love, go in peace.
Be that guide whom love sustains, rise above the daily strife, lift on high the good you find, help to heal the hurts of life.
As this live stream from First Unitarian Church comes to an end, remember that previous live streams can be found on our YouTube channel. We'd love to see you in person someday. Until then, thanks for joining us.